welcome back. This is Brighter Morning with Bo. I am Bo Tiwari, your host of Brighter Morning with Bo. And we are on MCTV, Multicultural TV in Trinidad and Tobago and the region. Our numbers are 609-6283. You can call 609-6284. We have Vivek Charran, who is the chairman of the Confederation of Regional Industries, and Ricardo Mohammed, who is the vice chairman, and we will talk to them now. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thanks for having us on. It's actually the Confederation of Regional Business Chambers.
Business Chambers. Okay.
And I'm not the president of the Samoa Business Association anymore.
I didn't say anything anything about that. So you're really chairman of the regional group, okay?
Correct.
Right. Okay. Fine. And you are vice chairman of the regional group. Well, it's good that you brought some structure to the chambers. I think it's important. You know, you have a chamber in Trinidad and Tobago that represents businesses that are either American businesses in Trinidad or businesses in Trinidad and Tobago that does business with the United States of America dominantly. So you have that. Then you have the big chamber, which is the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Commerce, which really, by and large, the big businesses in Trinidad and Tobago, the conglomerates, the bigger business, even people in manufacturing, some of the distribution trades, they are part of it. And then you have the Manufacturers Association, and that is a chamber, although they don't call themselves a chamber, that looks after the manufacturing interests. You have an energy chamber that looks after the energy sector. And you have an employers association in Trinidad and Tobago that looks after the interests of employers, of businesses in Trinidad and Tobago. And we have all of these regional chambers now in Trinidad and Tobago in different parts, in Point Fortin, in San Fernando, Sangre Grande, Samoa, Chaguanas, Couva, everywhere in Trinidad and Tobago. I can't remember how many, but I know there are about a dozen of them. And it's important that these small businesses and these smaller chambers also have a voice. And that is the only way you're going to have a situation in Trinidad and Tobago where business can be heard, so that you can have diverse opinions within business, first of all, but you can also have a united position by business on things that really matter, regardless of the size of the business. You also have now newly formed the Retailers Association. So we want to thank you from the regional business chambers for being here this morning. Okay? So can I start by asking you, did your organization send anything to the government for consideration in the budget?
What we did is we had we sent out some initial correspondence asking for them to look at particular areas or particular sectors. One of the things we were worried about was inflation, the control of inflation coming in. We wanted some more information about, or we were actually worried about taxes. You see, we feel that while we understand what the property tax has been some time in coming, and we understand the government's need for revenue and so on, and regulating the property tax, we felt that you can't tax an economy into growth. The proper time for taxes is as the economy is on its way to growth. And right now, particularly the troubling thing, as many other chambers are saying, with the property taxes, that tax that could be levied against machinery and plant and machinery and so on. At this particular time, given the ravages that COVID has had on the business sector as a whole, and given the fact that even before COVID, we were sort of on a slippery slope in terms of the performance of the economy at that time. We also noticed at this point in time that the importation of goods, generally across the board, has increased due to the freight costs that are increased, and the freight costs have increased astronomically. It is all fair that when these containers hit the ports with freight costs that are now, 30%, anywhere from 15 to 30% of where they used to be. For example, a container from the Far East would have been 2,500 to 3,000 US dollars. It's now 12,000 to 16,000 US dollars to bring in, and that's quite large, and that's affecting, the supply of goods and goods to a certain degree, but also the goods that are coming in. There will also be a higher cost to bring them in. And we feel that being in retail and being in small business and being importers ourselves, we are very concerned about, the effects that have on raising prices at this time, and the duties and so on that it would attract at the ports or whatever. So we did sort of ask for, to look at the duty structure of certain things. One of the things that, again, we looked at was, when it comes to vehicles, for example, the increased taxes on new vehicles is one thing, but the duties on things like motor vehicle parts and so on, and the maintenance of older vehicles. When we look at the cost of the maintenance of older vehicles, one of the largest elements of that cost would be the price of spare parts and so on for the vehicle. And that attracts a hefty sum in terms of, I think, 30% duty or whatever. And we're asking, why would you want to keep that duty structure? Why would you want to continue to, make it more expensive to upkeep the old vehicles at a time when vehicles are very essential to things like, business and transportation and bringing goods and services from one place to the other, including people. And given that the public transport system itself is not as broad and expansive as it should be, and given that I believe that they're trying to fix the public transport system or regulate it in terms of all these private cars and so on that are operating out there, which there's a safety issue, particularly with regards to women and so on. The mere fact that the existence of that private car for hire thing means that the current transport system where everybody is involved is, it doesn't reach everywhere it's supposed to reach. And therefore, that's why people have to take private hire cars and so on. So one of the issues with that is when you look at larger economies, when you look at economies like China and even America and other places, but particularly very large India and so on, you find that in order to alleviate poverty, in order to assist people, bringing people from areas of less commerce or areas of less development, the areas where things are happening and where there are factories and where there's manufacturing and where there's business, where there's a larger, there's more commercial activity is important, but it's also quite cheap. It's quite cheap to jump on a train. It's quite cheap to jump on a bus, and it's also efficient to get from one place to the other. And I've always believed that that's an important thing to do in Trinidad when you look at the areas through which, we see people earning lower salaries and there are less jobs to go around. The important thing is to get them from those areas to more, to more built up, more commercial areas. And when you look at Trinidad and Tobago, that could be as much as $50 a day, if not more. When you're looking at bringing people from, let's say, Manzanillo, Mayaro, all the way up the East-West corridor, or taking people from, North Trinidad all the way down Central and South and so on. It adds up and it eats into their pay, particularly when you're looking at, minimum wage and base salaries and unskilled workers and so on. So I think that in terms of development and so on, and for the benefit of business, getting people from one place to the other to find employment and to get them from one place to the other safely and cheaply is, critical and quite important. There are many other, there are broader things, talking about things like the debt to the GDP ratio, talking about things like, the concerns about Forex and accessing Forex, because as the economy is opening up and as the retail sector, of which a large part is SMEs, are beginning to, move forward and so on, particularly given the government stance that I think against some public concern, they continue to roll forward incrementally into the reopening of the economy, and we are very happy for that. I think it's a brave move. I think it's a bold move. We look forward to seeing, what the safe zones will translate to. But we are on the path, I feel, definitely to reopening. And how business does things is logistics. So we have to think from now, how are we, and we have to think positively and have the confidence to say, if the economy is going to be reopened, as things move forward, what's going to happen for Christmas? I think Christmas is a time that everyone looks forward to. I think Christmas is a time where, there's some heightened commercial activity, and I think we're all waiting for that level of heightened commercial activity, where not only business can do well, small businesses in particular, but whereby the employees can also do well. They can get some overtime, they can become employed, they have things to buy for that Christmas season, that holiday season, and so on. They have more disposable income, and we have a sort of positive, hopeful outlook that we're going to get there, given time.
All right, Ricardo, thanks for that perspective, Mr. Charran. Ricardo, Mr. Mohammed, do you want to add anything to that? You want to give your perspective on anything? I know that these were collective proposals sent in on behalf of the chambers. But would you like to add anything? Would you like to say anything?
Yes, good morning, Dr. Tiwari. It's indeed a great pleasure to be here this morning. I do share the same sentiments as my chairman, and we have to bear in mind, as he said, with regards to taxes. I think that is very crucial. The government needs to look into the situation where the members of the public had just been um, they have just been faced with a pandemic. A lot of persons had little to no income for a significant period of time. And we really have to see if taxing the additional taxes now, is it going to be beneficial to our growth as a nation or not? And these are some of the things that they have to look at. We, although we do understand that taxation is necessary in certain circumstances, we need to find a way, and we need to find ways in terms of planning this budget, how this economy could now earn income outside of the energy sector. And I think that is very important in taking this country forward, looking at different strategies, different business sectors, so that this country can now create an income from outside the energy sector. So that's the only additional thing I would like to add this morning so far.
All right. Now, you all have given some interesting things here. For instance, the inflation rate, the official inflation rate in Trinidad and Tobago remains pretty low. And this is touted all the time. And of course, anybody who reads the inflation rate in Trinidad and Tobago and goes into the grocery or the drugstore to buy anything knows that that inflation rate cannot be sensible. So there is a kind of problem here because, as you said, there have been serious structural problems with transportation and logistics following COVID. And the consequence of that is that everything that we import is much, much higher. So that is a matter that has implications for the management of business. It has implications for the relationship between business and its customers. And it also has a relationship between the ability to purchase on the part of consumers, where wages have remained the same and a lot of people have lost their jobs. You also have the additional issue of taxes in a situation where basically if you give taxes now, you're going to tax a lot of people out of business. And because, I mean, there's a limit to what businesses can bear. So we had several lockdowns. We had a lot of problems. Businesses were helping employees, trying to keep them going, etc. So these are some of the issues that you are concerned about, and I understand why you are concerned about it. And but I want to ask two things. One, are you as business concerned about government income and the ability to spend and keep the country going? Are you concerned as well as to how the society will cohere in the midst of all of these inequalities that COVID has sort of risen up in our face? And thirdly, are you concerned about the fact, given the kind of businesses that you are in, that we've got to find a way of producing more at home, which does not tap the foreign exchange pool, and at the same time we've got to export more outside of energy in order to bring foreign exchange in? Do these things concern you, and how are members within your chamber thinking and talking and conversing about this?
But to start with, I understand what you're saying about if we're concerned with the government's ability to earn revenue. There's the broader picture, and then there's the micro picture. And for us, it's a catch-22 situation, because much has been said by the economists about cutting back on transfers and subsidies, and how a large part of transfers and subsidies, how large a percentage of the, let's say, national GDP is part of transfers and subsidies is part of it, and even the budget and so on. However, no, actually the government budget. But for us, it's a catch-22 situation, because those employed by the government, majority of people in Tobago, public service, down to CPEP and so on, they also form part of our customer base at the level of SMEs when you look at the regional business chains. And they depend on that income, and independent upon that income and that employment with the government, that gives them the disposable income to come into our stores and so on. When we start to talk about how does the government become more efficient in their expenditure, how do they balance their own budgets, so to speak, and we have to talk about, well, how do we cut transfers and subsidies? How do we then, essentially what you may be saying to a certain degree is you might be cutting jobs, or you might be cutting salaries, and obviously that is going to have an effect on on the ground in terms of the high streets. And so for us, what the economists say that is the way to go forward for the betterment of the economy as a whole. For us on the ground and in the high streets, that is actually not a stimulus. That is not going to add to commercial activity on the high streets. As a matter of fact, my fear is that it would be something of a contraction. That being said, the government's ability to earn income has been, it's taken a hard hit, and it hasn't taken a hard hit just during COVID. It was taking a hard hit from before.
Yes.
Right, correct. There's been a lot of issues that have arisen within the energy sector and so on. And globally, the price of energy products, and we've been hard hit with that. In addition to our ability, our own supply of, things like natural gas and so on. And the fact that when it's announced that we have a big fine, because we've heard that there are several big fines that have happened over the last couple of weeks or months or whatever. There is a long process, or maybe years, before that fine is actually monetized, and before we can actually say, okay, you know what, that stream of income is going to start to come in to the government, and then that's going to find its way into the country and the general population and so on. Unfortunately, before the global pandemic, Trinidad was among the list of the worst performing economies. The global pandemic in COVID is not going to assist that in happening. We also have certain structural issues with regard to manufacturing down here, which is how do we compete with labor costs outside of Trinidad and Tobago? Is manufacturing in Trinidad and Tobago and the cost of manufacturing in Trinidad and Tobago competitive globally? And so when you talk about exports, that has to be part of the conversation. It's easy to say, well, you need to produce high-valued goods for export at a high price. And by saying produce high-valued goods, what you're actually trying to say is that that's going to take into account the high cost of production and so on. You're going to sell it at a higher price, and you're going to make your markup in there and so on. But that's not always easy, and that's not where the largest markets lie. Largest markets don't lie in the high price, high valued goods. A lot of people are saying, well, what about things like ICT and services and so on? I know there are a lot of software companies in Trinidad and Tobago. We have actually had a great synergy with, let's say, skilled persons from India and other parts of the world that have come to Trinidad and Tobago. They're actually working with Trinidadian people and set up companies. And, they're producing software, tailored, customized software on very different levels. But one of the issues with that is, affordability. Being able to deliver a product or being able to have the skill and the technology is one thing. Being able to access that, having the funds and having the ability to purchase it is another thing altogether, and also implement it. So I wouldn't say that there isn't innovation happening in our economy. I wouldn't say that all our skills are lower skills and stuff like that. I think that there is some innovation happening in the right places right now. But again, when you monetize that innovation, and when that innovation becomes a product, and a product that has to be sold, who is buying the product? And therefore the innovation cannot sustain itself, or the company behind the innovation cannot sustain itself if they don't have an income flow and if people are not purchasing the products that innovation is generating. And these are all interesting conversations to have, but at this time, we are not in a boom. We are not in a growth phase. We are not in a phase where we're thinking about, let's get another warehouse. How many more branches am I going to open? I need to hire more staff to take care of the amount of customers is coming in. Importing more from abroad to fill my shelves. I'm looking to see, what else I can get into. The money I'm making here, let's see if I can diversify my business. Unfortunately, this is not that time. And it's not going to be that time for some time to come, at least for many of the people that were not earning income from before and have now started off basically, from zero and working their way forward after the lockdowns and stuff like that. So we still have a ways to go. With regard to I think that food security is one thing, but I hear many people talk about food security. Yet I myself have witnessed to a certain degree in the wholesale markets of Trinidad and Tobago, on the days that they open, the wastage that happens, when the markets begin to close. And you ask yourself, why we're saying that there is not enough food when there's a significant wastage of produce that happens. Do we need more efficient, procedures? Do we need more efficiency in terms of how do we curtail the wastage of
right,
produce?
Mr. Charran, let's stop at this point. I have to take a break now. And when I come back, what I want to focus on is should the government focus on a growth strategy? Secondly, is what is likely to happen to investment in the business sector, given that a lot of businesses cannot even reopen? And I want to look at what is the best partnership that government can have with small and medium businesses to get the economy to a point of buoyancy. Okay, so I will come back. I'll start with you, Ricardo, when I come back. I won't forget some of the issues that you've raised, Mr. Charran. And we will talk about these things when we come back. We take a break now.
Welcome to Lifetime Solutions, where you can trust your roof to us. Our services include custom fabrication, steel framing, roofing installation, on-site roll forming, roofing maintenance and services. Call 223-ROOF or 223-7663 for a quote today or visit our website www.lifetimesolutionstt.com. Lifetime Solutions. You can trust your roof to us. Call 223-ROOF or 223-7663 for a quote today or visit our website www.lifetimesolutionstt.com.
Your house is more than just a home. It's the new normal. It's your place of work, your kids' school, and even your gym. It's where you and your family spend most of your time. With over 43 years in the building service industry, let Magic Mist Services Limited take care of your home cleaning and maintenance needs. From ceiling to floor, interior and exterior, allowing you to focus on what matters most to you. Give us a call. Magic Mist Services Limited, your total facilities management solutions provider.
Welcome back. This is Brighter Morning with Bo, and you are watching on MCTV in Trinidad and Tobago and the region. We are here every morning, Monday through Friday, from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. And we have two guests from the Confederation of Business Chambers, and these are Mr. Vivek Charran and Mr. Ricardo Mohammed. So, Mr. Mohammed, I gave you some questions earlier before the break, and basically I want to know. Let's start with the last one. What is the best partnership that government can make with small business, and that small business can make with government to get this economy going and to strengthen small business in this country?
Okay, so thank you very much. So what we need to bear in mind is that a lot of small businesses felt the impact significantly because they were closed for a significant period of time. And when we look at small businesses, most of the times a business in that size may have just enough money maybe to sustain them for maybe 1 month or 2 months, if so much. When we have lockdowns periodically, and for over a period of months at a time, that disposable income basically disappears. And they would have used those funding to would have supported their staff, pay their bills, try to maintain their business in business operations and so on. Now, when the businesses are locked down and you still have to pay utility bills, rent, and all these other costs for the businesses, it significantly drains the funding. So I think one of the main things is how can the SME sector partner with the government in terms of some direct cash injections? We do know that yes, we were given moratoriums by the bank, but then they had to pay all these extra interest costs. And then when the moratorium came to an end, there were a lot of businesses who were unsure how they can take their businesses forward. They still had expenses growing throughout the entire pandemic, and these expenses would have significantly depleted physical cash. So what we are saying is a strategy has to be developed between the government sector and the small and the SME sector. Sorry, to see how we can give a direct cash injection, a direct cash injection to help stimulate these businesses to restart their businesses to move forward so that they can reinvest these monies in ensuring the longevity of their businesses.
Okay, you think any of the things that the government has done has worked so far? I thought that the best thing that they did was they had a grant through the Small Business Development Company for small businesses. It looks to me like micro businesses. That was a grant. I don't remember how much it was, but it was a small amount, but good enough to keep a small business, very small micro business, like get it back on its feet. But the best thing that they did for small and medium businesses was basically directing the banks, and after initial mistakes, I thought, they basically created a $300 million fund for small and medium businesses that small and medium businesses could access. They would have moratorium for a little while. The government would completely back it. But we have a situation where those monies cannot now be disbursed because people have gone for loans and the banks don't even know how to organize those things. I mean, have businesses really benefited from what the government says it has done for small and medium businesses? And how could we make this work? Because we want to make it work. We don't want to quarrel with the government. We just want to make it work.
Correct. And that is something we were looking forward to. Most of the time, some of the requirements that was needed to access some of these loan facilities was really challenging for a lot of the businesses at that point in time. And then you had some of the offices being closed. You have some of the internet sites not working properly. So we had those challenges. And then you had to be earning a significant income. And if I'm correct, you had to be earning something like over $5 million or something a year in order to access $75,000. So in the scope of the business things, it doesn't make much sense in terms of that small capital being able to assist these small businesses. One of the things that these small businesses would have liked to see is that those businesses that were owed VAT returns, those should have been paid. Now, yes, the government did indicate that they paid out VAT returns and so on, but to the majority of my membership and to many of the business people that I speak to across Trinidad and Tobago, they have not received any returns. So is it that it's in processing? We don't know. Is it that it's in the queue, as they say, for the check waiting to be cut? We don't know. But so far, there is still a significant number of businesses that are still awaiting their VAT returns, and that would be a good stimulus help in terms of trying to pick up the pieces.
No, but tell me this. Since I was in Parliament, which is nearly 2 years ago, the Minister of Finance came and said that he would pay VAT for business because all business had agitated so much about it. So they have not paid the VAT returns and the tax liabilities that the government has for businesses yet?
And that's correct. Well, at least I have seen it. There are many businesses who have not received anything.
Yeah.
Correct. And I'm for example, classically, I'm one of those. I'm still waiting and hoping that I can see something coming in. I think what is necessary to really help us moving forward is that what is promised in terms of payments, that should be done properly. I think members who work or persons who work in the government sector need to upgrade their work ethics and actually get their jobs done. I know there are a lot of people who work very, very hard. And then you have some people who don't keep the team together to drive that so that you can get a better ease of doing business in this country. There's so
Yeah.
many things that will impact directly. In Trinidad and Tobago, we know for a fact that the work ethics needs to be improved significantly. Um, and this will, and once we can try to achieve something like that, it will help with all the other factors that will play a role in increasing the ease of doing business. Right now, as it is, the ease of doing business is a bit difficult. It is challenging, and so it really for the small businessman it's really difficult. Even if they're trying to achieve a goal, it becomes so difficult that sometimes they become disenchanted and say, you know what, let's just try something else. There's so many things that small businesses need to do now, especially with the role of digitalization and trying to bring their companies on a digital platform. That also has a cost. I believe that there are some grants that is available for that, but then not many people are aware of how many grants are available. And I think one of the things that a lot of the business people don't know is what grants are available for you. For you. So I personally have not checked the government information website, but from time to time, when you do have the random conversation with business groups, you may hear one colleague mention something because he may have picked up on something and say, listen, guys, there's a grant for this, and so on. I think when these grants come about, maybe the team and the government can at least put out a newspaper article or a spread or that these are some of the new grants that are available. Please contact X, Y, or Z to get further information on how you can
All right.
be.
We've got to go now. We've come to the end of the program at 8 o'clock. I'll just give you one sentence each of how you would like to close this conversation, knowing that you are really talking to the population, talking to government on the eve of the budget. What would you like to say?
I would like to say preserve the entrepreneurial spirit of generations that has built small and medium business across this country. Please preserve, the generations of work and toil and sweat and tears that went into that.
All right. Thank you
And
very
do
much.
that by
Okay. Ricardo?
Yes, thank you. And I would like to say to all my business members and business groups and friends within the industry, knowledge is power. This is a point in time where we have to learn to adapt to a new normal, and we have to look into everything that is possible to try to help us survive. So please look into digitalization and other forms of innovation so that you can help your business to survive during this very difficult pandemic.
Okay. All right. Do not squander generations of effort. Try to make it better. Help it to transform. And get with it. This is the age of technology. Let digitalization work for you to make you more competitive. Thank you so much, Mr. Vivek, Charran, and Mr. Ricardo Mohammed, for speaking to us this morning on behalf of the Confederation of Business Chambers. Thank you very much for watching. This is Brighter Morning with Bo. We are signing off now. Thank you so much for watching and joining us on MCTV, Multicultural TV. Thank you very much.